as you already know, we have a lot of stereotypes like about all this refugee narrative in Latvia. Like many people think that they are aggressive and all this stuff. How do you think? How can we break them? How can we make people think different about them?
Of course, it's a very difficult question that you can't answer, because if you don't know, I think that normally when people have stereotypes or use stereotypes in a negative way, because there can be good stereotypes, that there is kind of a fear. You don't know, and then you put a label, and then you normally, or at the moment at least, they can be negative. So I think that the only way is actually to try to listen to the person who is negative and try to find what the real problem is. Because it's not about the other person, it's a grievance in their own lives that can be right. I mean, you don't have a job, you feel that the skills you have will not give you a job in the future and so on. So I think that you have to listen to the person, not the bad words, but the personal words that are hidden in the criticism. If you are negative, you have stereotypes against refugees, what are you afraid that they would do, and so on. And then just, I mean, talk.
And also the media is like one of the influencers who like give those stereotypes to people. And how can the media maybe change to make a change to really impact like the reaching of the peace and the integration of the refugees?
I think that
What should I do?
well, as a journalist, you always have to be humble. You have to realize that you don't have the answers, and you should not like decide on the answers. But you also have to be constructive. There's no point in telling the bad stories over and over again, because they are just a part of it. And when, especially in Latvia, the media has very little resources. And then you are asked to do the story about the news, the selling story that is the negative story. You find good examples that can be quite neutral examples, like Mira that we had here today, who she's from Afghanistan, she's lived in Russia, in Ukraine, in Latvia and in the Netherlands. She's working very actively for the societies that she has lived in. Just do a story about her. Let her talk. Don't try to do a good story or the good news. Just do a story about her and demand that your employer, if you have to do the bad stories, that you also get to do the good stories.
Okay, and in this discussion you didn't give your own opinion, so I just want to know, how do you think, is the world peace possible? How do you think?
Well, I'm an optimist, so I think it's possible. I'm not saying when, but I see that we can follow humanity for 12,000 years, kind of a human culture, and the percentage of people who live in peace has never been bigger now. Of course, we don't have exact data from this period, but the people, you see Latvia, I mean, people have never had it better than now in Latvia. Even if we are told that these are turbulent times and we might be going into a war soon, or everything is happening, and then also the terrorism. But it hasn't happened yet. So we shouldn't think that it's going to happen, because we also have people who work with our security, and they are professionals. So we should trust them. And I'm an optimist partly by choice, because I think it's the only smart thing to do. Because if we want to do something good, you have to believe that you can do something good. And if a bigger percentage of all people have a life that's good enough, then more people can work for the good, and in the end we will have world peace.
Okay. And the final question, how do you think how can like a basic person, I mean like a civilian like person can just make an impact on these problems if he's just doing his work and living his life, but he's not like in politics or something. How can he like make some change? Can he?
There are three things. First of all, I mean, what everybody should do is, if they can afford to choose jobs, I mean, you look at the job you have and look at it, that is this doing, is it on the positive side for the general society? Or is it actually hurting society? So if you can afford to quit a job where you are doing something kind of bad, then that's a huge step to take. And I think you should if you can. Then anyway, you can always work with an NGO. You can just be active and talk actively. We have so much talk, as I said, with the narratives and people with stereotypes. You don't attack them for their opinions, but you just say your opinion. Because if you have a group of, I know it from experience, you have a group of 5 people who are as a group very aggressive and against everything, and you sit and talk with them for an hour, normally with a beer or two, at some point 1 or 2 of them will start to agree with you that actually it's not that black and white, and so then you get into that group this kind of message that it's not black and white. So that's, and then of course the third thing, I think, just stay positive and optimistic, and it's good for your own health, but it's good for the people around you, and in that way. Yeah, and then of course, when you vote, you have to know what you're voting for, and never do a protest like you see in many cases at the moment. People, let's talk about Trump in the States. People hate the system so much that they just elect a lunatic, and that can never be good. So know what you do.